welcome Mark Hyatt to Denver Rotary.
Well, thank you. Well, it's great to be here, and yes, I'm a little bit of a radical, and I will throw some things out there that you'll have opinions on, and we could do some Q&A afterwards, and I think they said about 20 minutes, and then 5 or 10 of Q&A if you want. But I'll be around afterwards to chat. I know to chat with Sandy because she wants to talk about education. But I came out to Colorado in 1970, and I flew into Stapleton, and I was going to be a cadet at the Air Force Academy, and I'd never been out here, never been west of Pittsburgh. You know, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, but I saw these pictures of these beautiful mountains, and I said, hey, I want to go fly airplanes, and I want to, be a leader in the Air Force. So I came out here, and I remember stopping. I got a bus down to the academy and stopped in Castle Rock. It was just a little two-horse town, and I remember Hampton was the last part of civilization. I mean, there were no lights or anything, and I remember as a cadet, we used to put our thumb out and hitchhike back to the academy, because we weren't allowed to have cars till we were seniors, and boy, have things changed. But there was something I did once, because when Steve got up and talked about how we need to go watch these rugby meets, when I was at the Air Force Academy, we didn't have women. There were, I think, 2 women that worked in the tailor shop, and it was just about all guys. And I went up and watched a rugby match, and it was a women's rugby. Do you know women play rugby too? But I wasn't sure of all the traditions, so I remember being up there with some of my classmates, and did you know it was tradition for the leading scorer to take all of her clothes off and run around, and are you familiar with some of those?
I haven't missed a game.
He hasn't missed a game. Well, I was just glad to see some women, but I expected them to have their clothes on. But anyway, it was interesting. So if you go to the Rotary rugby thing, be careful. But I'll tell you, I graduated in '74, went out there, and I spent most of my career in the Air Force as a fighter pilot. So any pilots out here? And yeah, my wife said, don't start telling them about being a fighter pilot, because there's only 2 types of people impressed with fighter pilots, and that's other fighter pilots and young boys. And so I won't talk about that. But I loved doing that. And then as I went up my career, I became an advisor during the Clinton administration to the Secretary of Defense back in Washington, and that was a very interesting time for me. And then ended up coming out to the Air Force Academy and was the vice commandant there, and then at the end of my career ran their character development center, which was a huge challenge, especially the way that society has been going. And then a school called the Classical Academy they had hired a headhunter, and they contacted me and said, we want you to come lead this fast-growing, the largest charter school in Colorado. And I didn't even know what a charter school was. I just wasn't even thinking of getting out and retiring. But I told the guy no twice, but he was persistent. And I finally went and met these people, the parents, the students, the teachers, and I just fell in love with K-12 education. And that's what I've been doing for the last 7 years, is running the largest charter school in Colorado, which has more than tripled in size. We've gone from about 1,000 children when I got there to over 3,100 now, with 8,000 on our waiting list to get in. In fact, we even have people calling from the delivery room and putting the children on the waiting list to get in. And so I know we're doing something that a certain segment of our population likes. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit today, because I'm an educator by passion and experience now, not by training. And my friend that I'm going to get to know, Sandy here, is an educator by training and experience. So I'm going to share some of my stories afterwards with her, and she's going to teach me. But I'll tell you, I want to talk about 2 things. The Classical Academy as the largest charter school in Colorado. There's about 160 charter schools. And then I want to talk about what makes the Classical Academy so special, and that's their character education program. But first, I just want to tell you, I'm being new to education in 2002. I was amazed that the generally monopolized K-12 education system in America would allow about 5% of the industry to compete with the rest of the industry. And that's what charter schools are. We've been waived out of a lot of the rules. We don't have to hire licensed administrators. We don't have to hire licensed or credentialed teachers. We can hire anybody we want. but we're held to the same standards as all the rest of the schools. In other words, they want us to really be out of the box. They want us to be innovators. They want us to find out what parents want and give it to them, and really help change the industry. And I think we have, and I'll tell you a little bit about that as we go on. But the Classical Academy, the charter schools were started, they were started about early 90s. And I came on board about 8 or 9 years after that. But as I went to national charter conferences around the country and at Harvard and other places, I found out that generally this is a minority movement in America. In other words, it's an urban inner city phenomena. Colorado is atypical because we generally are, we don't have as many minorities here, so it's just different. Like our school is a North Colorado Springs district with 7 schools now and 3,100 children, and but we're generally, I think, 90% white. It's a middle to upper middle class, and but generally around the country it's an urban inner city at-risk program, and that's why charters were formed. But some of us have jumped on the bandwagon and tried to really do some great things for parents. But when I came to TCA, the Classical Academy, I asked the parents, what do you want? Why did you form this? Why does this place have such a long waiting list? They said it was the 3 C's. They said it was character, curriculum, and class size. And I'll just say that the character program, I think that's why they came after me, since I ran the character program at the Air Force Academy. They said, okay, you got the leadership thing, and you care about the kind of people that were graduating, not just their academic achievement. And we like that, because generally our kids have pretty good foundation, but they don't always do the right thing. And we want you to help them to continue to be the best. We want them to catch up, keep up, and move up, no matter where they are in the education spectrum, but we want you to help them to be good citizens. So that's a tall order. And then curriculum, we have a very unique curriculum that's old school. It's very classical. We require Latin. We require a class in logic. We require them to take a class in rhetoric before they graduate in 12th grade. In fact, I sent my high school principal I gave him a credit card, said, go up to Golden and Boulder and Greeley and Fort Collins and take a bunch of our graduates out to lunch and dinner and ask them what we did the best and what we did the worst. And they said that our rhetoric class was the best thing that we did. I said, why? And they said, well, we got up into the dorm at Turner Hall up there. All these 18-year-olds come in and they start arguing, but they don't know how to argue well. And our students said they could win the arguments in the dorm. And these kids would come in with these harebrained ideas, but ours could actually support it with facts and things like that. They felt the thing we did the worst was they felt that we kept them in a bubble too much down there at our school, because we make them wear uniforms. We don't tolerate a lot of misbehavior. And then when they get up to college, it's quite permissive, and quite the spectrum of behavior that's tolerated is way out there. So they said that was a real shock to them. But so we're working on that down at the Classical Academy. And then class size, my board of directors, if I have more than 16 children in a kindergarten through 3rd grade class, I'm in trouble. I'm probably going to get fired. If I have more than 20 in any of my other classes, I'm probably going to get fired. So they're serious about small class sizes so that there's lots of accountability, lots of relationship building, and that makes it a challenge financially, because each child comes with what we call PPR, per pupil revenue, attached. And it's a challenge, but I like challenges, and we've been frugal, and things are going real well. But I'm going to tell you about some things that aren't going well and what we did with it. So basically, we have the charter movement in America. To me, charter schools should not exist if we're like all the other schools. We should be pushing the limits and trying new things all the time. And I'll give you an example of something recently where the University of Colorado gave us Colorado Springs gave us the annual Civic Innovation Award, because I found mold a couple of years ago at one of our schools. It was the oldest one, and we had a very rainy August, and then some mold started coming up, and drainage. We just needed to leave that campus and build a new school. But these are tough times to be going and asking for more money from the taxpayers, so I said, I want to do this without the taxpayers, even though we're a public school. So I looked over at our local community college, and I saw that Pikes Peak Community College at their Rampart campus had 80 acres, just dirt, just land. So I went to the president of the college, and I said, hey, could you could we just have some of that land? And they said, no, you can't